Forrest, I mean, you're around the company on a daily basis, but I did want to ask kind of what it means to you to be at a function like this. I mean, you kind of helped usher in this era and to see, guys wearing suits, inducting people in the Hall of Fame. What does it feel like for you?
Well, my wife asked me, like, where I was going, and I was like, the park, like MGM. She's like, what? She's like, we were in a convention space when Eugene Stephan got in at in the Mandalay Bay Convention next to, some supplement autograph station. Like, John Jones was there signing autographs like 50 feet from me, and like people were like leaving me to go get his autograph or something. I was like, yeah, UFC's come a long way.
Yeah, I know you're always a humble guy, but I do wonder, I've seen this debate about what does the Hall of Fame really mean, but to a fighter, to be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, I mean, is that a special honor?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can tell you personally, it's great when you're speaking places, and as far as the introduction, I mean, there's nothing better than, Forrest Griffin, UFC Hall of Famer. It's like, oh, okay, let's, you step on a stage to tell some kids not to do drugs. You got a little bit of cred there.
Does it resonate, though? I mean, at the end of the day, you guys are fighting for titles and wins and stuff like that, right? But to be given an honor that can't ever be taken away, like, is that something pretty special?
Well, and that's a great point. That's kind of what I mean to point out. It is becoming more and more of an honor, and as more people go through the UFC. Let me just phrase it this way. I'm very lucky I got into the Hall of Fame when I did. It's just like getting admitted to college. If I hadn't gotten in the year I did, the next year, I would have never gotten in. I lucked out on this one too. It's if you think about it, the requirements are going to keep growing and growing and growing as more people do more amazing things, and the sport grows around the world.
That's awesome. Last thing I wanted to ask you about Nick Diaz. There's a whole group of new fans of the sport that have never seen Nick fight, that don't understand why everybody's going all crazy, right? Like, what would you say about what Nick means to sport and why he has this passionate fan base around him that just can't wait to see him back in there this weekend?
So Nick's an anomaly to me. I mean, I've been, a fan to his. He's actually my stepdad's favorite fighter. I have no idea why. I think it's just his attitude. But, yeah, I remember watching him and Lawler the first time live, as I'm sure you do too, because we're old. But no, I wouldn't tell him anything. Just watch, Get Fight Pass and watch his old fights. Like I just watched like a 4-minute highlight of him on Instagram, just smashing people today. So there you go. That's the Nick Diaz story.
Does it not upset you that you're not your stepfather's favorite fighter?
No, God no. But that is a good question. That's a good question.
So,
I mean, Nick Diaz, though, right?
Yeah.
So when you go to these functions and they introduce you as UFC Hall of Famer, what gets top billing? Former champion or UFC Hall of Famer?
That's a good question. I think Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Speaking of the title, what do you make of the Jan Glover fight that's coming up at the end of October? Your former belt.
Super excited for both those guys. Two great human beings. Two guys that are older in the sport. They're long in their tooth, and I don't have anything good to say about competing late in MMA. I think it is a relatively young person's game, but I have everything good to say specifically about Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira, guys that have done things right and are physically still at the peak, the top. Like a Cormier, like, Dana says he's like the only guy I ever told not to retire. I'm mostly telling these guys to retire. Well, these are guys that are still, in the prime of their career, late 30s, early 40s, doesn't matter. So, I mean, I'm impressed to see that and a lot bit jealous. Not a little bit jealous, but a lot jealous. Like, wow, those guys are still fighting, and they're not that much, younger than I am.
Well, kind of going off that, like, what do you make of fighters like Darren Till just lost, and he shared a photo of Jan and Charles Oliveira, because they've gone on these long losing streaks in the UFC, and they've gone and become champion. That's kind of become a trend right now in the UFC, right?
I love it. And then you forgot my favorite, Brendan Moreno. So I love the second half of the story. I really do. That's one of my favorite things, and I try not to take sides and to pick, fights like that. But I do love to see somebody go through the adversity and then come back and have a wonderful second half of their career. And I love that. I mean, I just love that that's the way the sport is developing, and that you can do that.
Talking about older fighters, what did you make of Anderson's performance against Tito?
Well, I only saw the highlight, but I mean,
I think that was all there was to see.
Yeah, well, there you go. I think Dana said it too. Like, say what you want about Tito, the weight cut didn't help his chin, I'm sure, but I ain't never seen a guy get knocked down, and I never seen him fall on his face before. I saw him get knocked out by Chuck Liddell, but it was kind of a cumulative thing. And, I've seen a lot of guys hit that guy really hard. Maybe it's age, maybe it was the weight cut, who knows, but, Anderson still got it, so.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.